Yesterday's conspiracy theories, tomorrow's headlines. Most are still asleep and I ain't talking about no bedtime. The truth is not a Google search, you need to get your head right. The Greek goddess of illusion was called Media I'm not a coincidence theorist, I look for thread lines. Smashing every deadline, no longer smashing red wine. Though I can hear the bells chime, it feels like the end times. That probably should have been smashed on red wine. But the carnal mind is foolish, obey and end up ghoulish. Don't get used by instinct, take control and learn to use it. Make a load of earnest music, earn a few quid, learn a few tricks. Sure, the truth is persecuted, this whole world is pure abusive. Know a bit about everything and everything about nothing. Figured out my noggin while you picture out shopping. You sit about watching while I dish it out, stop it. I don't mean to sound cocky, I'm not even proud of it. It's a second nature to me, just for me to sound honest. I don't even need to sound honest, never been about profit. Everything but out on it, you can bet your house on it. Doubt I'll be out for the count when the sounds, and I'm down for the beat, no beat down. I mean, how long's it been? Help me out. I've been the only one who's held me down. All in the mind, hell freeze now. Still sick with it, healthy how? Few bars down and the world freaked out. I don't reach out, I seek out to speak out. I'ma recount the reasons they beat out. I'm not the way, no way. I have seen the way. Yeah. Speak, repeat, there's no way.
Yo, welcome everyone to 509 Divine Pines, man. We're out here on a Saturday night giving you guys the news. You know how it goes. All right, guys, this is a jam-packed episode. Go ahead, relax, get some smoke, tell your friends, get some drink, you know. Get your mind right, get your energy right. All right, so first off, shout out my sponsors, Tweedle Farms. Go ahead, visit www.tweedlefarms.com/509 Divine Pines, and you'll save yourself a nice 20% discount on hemp, oil, vapes, edibles, tinctures, everything, man. And honestly, it's full spectrum. Their hand-picked selection of strains, and literally the cannabinoids are on point. He got literally everything. And it's maximized to have a full spectrum feel. So you're going to get the best of everything. Once again, man, it's just one of those companies that it really stands out. All right. Now, next up, Boomer Boost. Visit www.boomerboost.com or Boomer Vitamins, right? Let me go ahead and show you on the screen while I'm at it. Well, yeah, boomerboost.com, and use my coupon code 509 Divine Pines 10 off, and you'll enjoy some supplements. You'll get your nutrition right. You'll revitalize your mind, body, and soul. Literally, when we heal ourselves through our gut and through our nutrients, we're going to go ahead and evolve. We're going to be a lot better physiologically. Everything about us is going to be sharper. We're going to have a much happier day. Our emotions are going to be calmer, cooler, more collected, because, emotions are set off by our neurochemistry, and our neurochemistry set off by our guts, and our guts controls it all. So, heal your gut through some fundamental nutrition systems. They got premium blends of 70 nutrients in one, or you got single out nutrient vitamins like omegas. You got collagen, you got probiotics, you got a little bit of everything. I'll be honest, it's one of the companies that I have used over and over. I've been using nutrients for about 10 years, and tell you what, man, this is a company that really gets it, and they're about you. They want to help you. They're not really just trying to give you some BS product. Also, hey, shout out Popple. Popple has a digital card for your business. You tired of carrying around all them papers? Yeah, me too. You carry around this digital business card from Popple. You wear it around your neck. You put it on the back of your phone. You put it on your business desk at your work. You have all these options to have a nice NFC chipped or QR coded digital business card. And literally, you're gonna save yourself so much time. You're just gonna put this on your lanyard, right? And over time, you're gonna be like, hey, look, this is my company right here. Instead of scrambling at the door, oh, I gotta take my business card. No, just take your keys and you got your business card, and it's much cooler too. It's nice, upgraded technology, hands free, and man, right, like your information pops up within about 1 to 2 seconds, depending on how quick the person can open their phone and unlock it. And once it's unlocked, you put the NFC platform on the phone right next to the NFC chip on the digital business card, and it opens up. It is sleek. They got all these cool options. Go check them out and use my coupon code Joseph Pena. You'll save yourself about 20% off. Hey, and also for all your pepper and spice needs, go check out pepperenvyllc.com. She's a local pepper farmer, and man, I love my peppers. I'm Mexican. I love those hot things. I love that spice, ooh, spice, sweets, and everything nice. She got sweets too. So if you want to go ahead and get some cookies, some homemade and custom cookies, she got it, man. She's premium ingredients. She makes it with love. She has the dopest selection of like products, peppers. And she has these cool custom wooden spoons too. So if you want to go ahead and have your name on a custom wooden spoon, hit her up. Hey, all right, let's go ahead and get on with this. Now, first things up, man, check this out. We got Crimea getting attacked. Now, who knows what happened, how it happened, why it happened, but for all my listeners at home, the video shows us that this Crimean bridge got attacked at night. And I'm gonna go ahead and play it.
Не, не надо. Так, легковушка.
And it shows the low point of the bridge right now.
Тоннажный КамАЗ Ларгус. При заезде, получается, на сторону Керчи.
And there's a huge explosion, molten lava. It looks like those two towers literally look like a mini volcano. So the explosion happened at the low point, going up to the high point. That's what we're seeing right here. Now this is intense because this is the only bridge that connects Russia to Crimea. So I mean, it could be done to try to save Crimea or to save Russia. Who knows? Really, I just wanted to go ahead and show you this because this is breaking. And well, this is a video you might not just see on your MSN or MSNBC, CNN. Now, scrolling downward, you see this aftermath in the morning. You got the bridge still on fire. And there's a video right here over there from Crimea where the bridge is still clearly on fire in the morning. And we're going to play this video right here for my viewers at home. Yeah, it's daytime. It's clearly morning, and there's a collapsed bridge too. Pause that for a second. Yeah, the bridge is collapsed. Wow, check that out. You can Google it, and you'll see the morning picture aftermath. That's pretty severe. Hopefully, everyone is all right over there. Honestly, I hope everything is okay. Prayers for both sides. I really don't like drama, unnecessary conflict. It sucks to see that happen. All right. Continuing on though, this is a little interesting. Scientists in Ukraine says they've spotted UFOs. This was published by MSN on September 15th. We see them everywhere. We observe a significant number of objects whose nature is not clear, said the researchers. Now, oof, guys, could the Crimean Bridge been blown up by UFOs? Hey, this is a conspiracy podcast. Oh man, dude, who even knows? Because we didn't really see anything too clear about how that bridge blew up. Huh, man? Hey, Ukraine, Crimea, Russia, they're all playing shady games. Next up, artificial intelligence helps researchers to develop invisibility cloak. Written by Eddie Gonzalez Jr. Metamaterials are artificial materials engineered to have properties not found in naturally occurring materials, and they are best known as materials for the invisibility cloak, often featured in science fiction games and novels. By precisely designing artificial atoms that are smaller than the wavelength of light and controlling the polarization and spin of light, the new optical properties are made that are not found in nature. Wow. These are schematics of an artificial neural network that can design structural parameters and materials simultaneously. When desired optical properties, electric and magnetic dipole spectrum is inputted. Each thickness and types of materials of the three-layered core shell nanoparticle are provided as output. In order to obtain the right material, numerous attempts and failures are required. However, AI is expected to provide a solution for this problem. AI can be trained with a vast amount of data and can learn designs on various metamaterials and correlation between photonic structures and their optical properties. Using this training can provide a design method to make a photonic structure with desired optical properties. Researcher Professor Junsik Fo, Sune So, Jun Ho Moon of Department of Mechanical Engineering and Department of Chemical Engineering at POSTECH recently developed a design at a higher degree of freedom, which allows you to choose materials and to design photonic structures arbitrarily by using deep learning AI. His group educated AI to design arbitrary photonic structures and gave an additional level of freedom to the design by categorizing types of materials and adding them as a design factor, which made it possible to design appropriate materials for relevant optical properties. The result revealed it had identical optical properties inputting the artificial neural network. Our researchers successfully brought out a higher degree of freedom in design, but the new design still requires users to input certain problem setting in the beginning. It sometimes produces wrong designs and therefore made impossible to produce desired metamaterials. So I'd like to further complete this metamaterials utilization in AI. Now, remember, I did cover an article about a month ago where researchers and scientists had discovered new methods and new theorems to a quantum problem. They gave an AI a quantum problem, like a math problems or something, a science problem, who knows, geometric problem. They had to solve it, right? And it found new ways, new methods of completing it, and the researchers had no idea on all these new methods. They were like, wow, the AI just showed us literally 10 different ways to do this. And also it had created some new forms of physics. So instead of using like silver and gravity and gold and all these different chemicals, it actually created a new formula with new physics and new materials, just like what they're getting right here. I mean, this team isn't necessarily as advanced. I mean, it's using the same AI algorithms, the deep learning technology from Google, but there's all these different teams and they're all working on things. This was in 2019, by the way, so it could just be old data. Still, they created invisibility cloaks in their lab. Interesting. Now, this is just a quick glance. I found this article fascinating just from the title. It says from Telegram World News, dispatch from Kharkiv. These Russians are not like the ones we are fighting before. Now, that could just look like a simple headliner, but for anybody who knows something, that is, something to think about with a question mark, question mark, question mark, because here we go. October 8th, 2022, DARPA genetically modified humans for a super soldier army. You've seen it as science fiction or TV movies, but now it's science fact. I'm talking about the Pentagon's DARPA's creation of super soldier army with superhuman abilities achieved through genetic modification, going on for some years, shrouded in secrecy. These mutants will make future wars totally different games. The genetic modification of specific human genes will give these soldiers certain characteristic advantages on the battlefield, giving rise to the most amazing abilities and performances. Smarter, sharper, more focused, and more physically stronger than their enemy counterparts, these soldiers will be capable of telepathy, run faster than Olympic champions, lift record-breaking weights through the development of exoskeletons, regrow limbs lost in combat, possess a super strong immune system, go for days and days without food or sleep. Then there's the emotional side. These soldiers will have the empathy genes to lead and show no mercy, while devoid of fear. Even more disturbingly, the human-assisted neural device program involving brain control allows the joystick remote operation of soldiers from some faraway control center. All this has been revealed, even in mainstream media. In spite of the secrecy, fiction writer Simon Conway was allowed into the Pentagon's DARPA and given a guided tour. Doesn't this suggest that DARPA are well into the final stages and they want us to get used to the idea of genetically modified super soldier armies? The type of super soldier human characteristics that have been developed or are in development stages in the soldiers is indicated by funding allocations. For example, DARPA has handed out $40 million grant to California and Pennsylvania universities to develop memory controlling implants. It has also been revealed that DARPA awarded $9.9 million to the Institute for Preclinical Studies, Texas A&M University, to develop a means of surviving significant blood loss. This would overcome the normal difficulties in requiring life-saving medical treatment immediately after combat injury, which is known to be difficult to give the complications and dangers encountered on the battlefield. Another characteristic in development is having the soldiers genetically modified to hibernate throughout winter. There is a gene in squirrels that produces an enzyme in the pancreas, which enables this ability. This gene can be taken from the squirrel and inserted to soldiers through CRISPR. So, the summary of this article that they want to make for you. Now, take this really serious. It has to be remembered that wars are secretly manufactured for power, profit, and political gain. So all the massive funding gone into these projects only goes into supporting false pretexts created by the powers that be for their own selfish means to an end, regardless of the consequences. There's never enough money for humanity, but always a blank check for war, like us, and how much they can genetically modify us. As history has shown us, any advantage created will sooner or later be matched by the enemy. Human genetic modification technology for military advantages shouldn't be any different and will be matched as a response by the enemy after their realization that the technology exists. Indeed, this is, in effect, canceling out any advantage as the historic case of nuclear arms race with the political superpowers and now with the global drone arms race. 3. Are we civilians next? Will the genetic modification technology extend it to civilians? Rather than giving us anything to our advantage, will it be used for dumbing down and control in a scientific dictatorship? What about those memory controlling implants mentioned? Consider the sinister implication. Remember the Arnold Schwarzenegger film Total Recall involving false memory implants? 4. When it comes to genetic modification, there are always the dangers related to tinkering with life. What about the long-term consequences in the spread of these genes over generations? What about the potential irreversible damages, as in those related to transhumanist agenda? Jeffrey Ling, DARPA director, asks. 5. Last but not least, there are ethical considerations. What will be the humanitarian cost? Could this design lead us down a road to hell? So, DARPA, our own American scientific defense research, arms and research programs from the Pentagon, is genetically modifying super soldiers to have telepathy, run faster than Olympians, lift record breaking weights, regrow limbs, super strong immune systems, no food or sleep for days. Sounds pretty fascinating. And I was in the military, so man, who knows if I'm like one of these secret DARPA genetically modified super soldier humans. Continuing on. Now, this is also another article on the DARPA super soldier topic. All right. One of the projects on the horizon is to create software which could be uploaded directly to the brain to give their soldiers heightened senses while also attempting to cure ailments such as blindness, paralysis, and speech disorders. DARPA will put $50 million into researching the neural networks play into operating the brains to decipher how it processes sensory input. It will then create technologies and algorithms which can interpret and generate signals in the brain. Now, remember about a week ago, I had mentioned the algorithms and the AI that could read your brain. It could predict everything about your future. Yeah, so you can see how this is all interlinked. A statement from DARPA said the program known as Neural Engineering System Design aimed to develop an implantable neural interface able to provide advanced signal resolution and data transfer bandwidth between the brain and electronics. The implant will act as a translator, converting digital communication like binary code into an electrochemical language used by the brain. NESD program manager Philip Alvelda said that its brain-computer interfaces program looks ahead to a future in which advanced neural devices offer improved fidelity, resolution, and precision sensory interface for therapeutic applications. Another project boffins at DARPA are working on is the ability to give superhuman sight to its soldiers. The soldier-centric imaging via computational cameras program is attempted to create a small contact lens which would improve fighters' vision tenfold, which I will cover in another day. Well, actually, no, they're covering it right here. Look at this picture. For all my viewers at home, this picture is popped up and it is showing you an eye, but this eye is a contact lens. It's this might just be a rendition or it could be the actual contact lens because I've seen the real contact lens and they're gold. Now this could be a rendition, but now still understand that this is what they're doing. Research began on the project 2011. DARPA hopes to develop novel computational imaging capabilities and explore joint design of hardware and software to give warfighters access to systems that greatly enhance their awareness, security, and survivability. With this contact lens that they are creating and using, it pretty much has like insights and stats on all these different things in our reality and what we see. It's like algorithms making and adjusting our path to what we want, giving us real-time data. It's pretty much making people like Dragon Ball Z's power reader, they're pretty much making people Saiyan and Super Saiyan and have those key fighter technologies, the key readers. DARPA is also working on technologies outside of the body to make their soldiers stronger and faster, such as the XOS range. The XOS-2 is an exoskeleton that currently is being developed in conjunction with the UK technology from Raytheon that soldiers will one day be able to wear and make them 17 times stronger. For everybody who's watched the movie Elysium, you know that technology in Elysium where they have the exoskeletons and Matt Damon is fighting and, they're getting down. Go watch Elysium. That's literally the XOS-2 and the Raytheon exoskeletons. Raytheon VP of Operations Fraser Smith told Time This got started mostly because of the need that the military has for lightening the soldiers' load. Let's check this out for my viewers at home. It's a quick 2-minute clip so you can listen in. So Clark Gregg from the Iron Man movies visited Raytheon Studios to unveil this
This is the
XOS2.
Exos 2, the kind of closest thing we have at this moment to the Iron Man suit.
This is amazing. I've never seen this. This guy
incredibly
makes
strong, and
Olympians look weak.
It doesn't feel any different if you put 150 pounds on the back or if it's unloaded. The Exos 2 is more fluid and stronger. I don't feel the strength, but I know I can pick up more. The big deal is that it takes a lot less power at the same time as it's stronger.
We reduced the power consumption by 50%.
Look at those suits they got in the background.
And our target is 20% of what Exos 1 used.
This kind of looks like the Green Goblin from
consumption,
Spider-Man.
to make it more practical for non-tethered use.
Or the octopus guy, my bad. The
You
octopus
push on the
guy.
board.
One of those.
Like, I'm never gonna be able to break that, but
A little bit.
wind up and do it, and away they go.
What are some of the ways that a suit like this would be used in a theater of operations?
Well, there are two main focuses. One is like the combat variant, which would actually be just from the legs down, and it would support a backpack to lighten the soldier's load. The other variant is logistics.
Clearly, lifting weights in the battlefield, like water bottles and food rations and munitions and that sort of thing, is not a stretch from lifting a 200-pound barbell.
Which is tough to do. And
A lot if you're me, but a lot less if you're me in this suit.
Well, exactly.
So you're lifting armaments and various things that weigh a lot with this.
Exactly.
I don't even feel that.
We'd expect them to appear in theater probably in about 5 years for the tethered version, and perhaps 3 to 5 years in addition to that for a non-tethered version.
That it's becoming real this quickly is just kind of remarkable. I can't wait to see Exos 3.
Man, you guys seen it. These things are real. Next up, we have $3 billion super soldier program, 10 times muscle endurance, 7-foot vertical leap, wall crawling, personal flight, and more. Now, this is from 2008, a $3 billion super soldier program. In 2008, guys, think about that money. DARPA told this article, which is, wow, the Olympic Committee. I'm not sure who they told. Now, this is an article from Brian Wang, though. Now, DARPA today has a long-term $3 billion program to help make such a metabolically dominant soldier. In other words, the military is studying how to use technology and biology to meld man and machine and transcend the limits of the human body. Described by the project director, my measure of success is that the International Olympic Committee bans everything we do. Man, you hear that? So if he's successful, the International Olympic Committee will ban everything that he does. That must be that he's sinister. That must mean that he is not a good guy. The $3 billion program is definitely trying to achieve transhuman performance goals. The wearable gear would enable running at 100-meter Olympic sprinter speeds for hours, and the 7-foot vertical leap, the wall crawling, personal flight, invisibility, greatly enhanced strength, better body armor, and carrying bigger, more powerful weapons. Now, I got this little this little article that's showing up as an update. It says advanced gene therapy could provide cheetah and gorilla quality muscles in humans. for 45-mile-per-hour speed or 5 to 10 times strength. Wow. So, continuing on. The drugs and genetic enhancements and some technology which gets applied would allow for regeneration, faster healing, muscle strength enhancement up to the Olympic levels, endurance of the Alaskan sled dog, cognitive enhancement, operate without sleep and many days without performance degradation, the metabolic energy of a 20-year-old for a 40 or 50-year-old, and immunity to pain. The metabolically dominant soldier program is managed by Joe Bielitsky. He is talking about fixing your cells so you could live off your fat. Bielitsky acknowledges the potential for spin-off technologies. $40 billion a year goes into the weight loss industry in this country. This technology will change it. Regeneration, better healing, better immune systems would all revolutionize healthcare costs and healthcare effectiveness. So trillions in economic benefit as a side effect of super soldier success. DARPA is also trying to enhance cognition, training, and giving the energy levels of youth to the elderly. Those could provide multi-billion or even trillion-dollar per year boost to the U.S. and world economy. Projects in pipeline range from drugs that will boost muscles and energy by the factor of 10, akin to steroids on steroids. The project is jokingly termed the Energizer Bunny and fatigues, to wearable cooling gloves that regulate body temperature and prevent soldiers from getting overheated. So this program, this is a lot of money. This was 2008. That's nearly, what, 14 years ago? Wow. I mean, that type of money now would be like 500 billion if it were in today's money. A major focus is helping the soldiers better to deal with trauma and damage. One such is the pain vaccines coming up from the program Renat Neuroscience, which Pfizer acquired. Researchers are hopeful these will block the sense of pain for almost a month. The substance blocks intense pain for less than 10 seconds. Its effect lasts for 30 days. It doesn't stifle your reactions. If you touch a hot stove, you'll have the initial shock. Your hand will automatically jerk away, but after that, the torment is gone. This product works on inflammatory response for subacute pain. If you get shot, you feel the blue bullet, but after that, the inflammation and swelling are substantially reduced. Holy shit, I had no idea. So they created a vaccine long time ago, about 14, 15 years ago, that would numb your sense of pain. Now that's fascinating. I never heard about that. The plan is for new body armor that instead of Kevlar is filled with nanomaterials that are connected to a computer. It would normally be as flexible as regular uniforms made of fabric, but it would activate whenever the system detects a bullet strike and turn as hard as steel in an instant. Gloves could turn into real-life brass knuckles, nano muscle fibers that simulate real muscles, giving soldiers an estimated 25 to 35% better lifting capabilities. So myostats and strength boost to get Olympic athlete strength levels, and then 25 to 35% boost from a soft suit. Use better exoskeletons for more strength enhancement. From deflecting bullets to powers of invisibility, as military analyst Max Boot writes, such as the suit would truly give ordinary mortals many of the attributes of superheroes. Now, that's just interesting, guys. Continuing on. So, inside the super soldiers' arms race to create genetically modified killing machines unable to feel pain or fear. This is from the sun.co.uk in 2020. So we see a whole bunch of people right here, and they're just shredded. And this is probably the genetic modification, super soldiers. Or, well, no, this says it's Indian bodybuilders in the Indian army. Ha. So it could be super soldiers. Silly me. Sorry, guys. Now, the article is still about super soldiers. So, this talks about militaries have a long history of using drugs to turn their troops into transcendent Terminator style killers. Nazis took amphetamines and crystal meth during World War II. The British brought thousands of modafinil pills, which boost brain power, ahead of the Iraq War. Advancements in technologies nowadays could possibly alter soldiers' DNA to give them godlike powers, which I had just read in the last article. In China, it is reasonable to assume that they are enhancing their battlefield soldiers on all these fronts. China's armed forces are the largest in the world, consisting of staggering 2.2 million personnel. Now, I'll go ahead and show you that China is working on super soldiers. China has done human testing to create biologically enhanced super soldiers, says the top U.S. official. This is from NBC News. Oops, sorry about that, mic hit. From NBC News, U.S. intelligence agencies talk about Chinese super soldiers. They have shown that China has conducted human testing on members of the People's Liberation Army in hopes of developing soldiers with biologically enhanced capabilities. John Ratcliffe, the director of national intelligence, included an explosive chain from the Wall Street Journal, which poses the case that China has preeminent national security threat on the U.S. There is no ethical boundaries to Beijing's pursuit of power. Last year, 2 American scholars wrote a paper examining China's ambition to apply biotechnology to the field, included that there were signs that China was interested in using gene-edited technology to enhance humans and soldiers' performance. Specifically, China used research from CRISPR, which is a gene editing machine and program, for regularly interspaced short palindromic repeats. They were used, modifying plants. They were doing all sorts of tests. Now, while the potential leveraging of CRISPR to increase human capabilities on the future battlefield remains, hidden, the researchers are starting to explore its potential. Chinese military scientists and strategists have emphasized that biotechnology become a strategic commanding heights of future revolutionary in military affairs. I agree. In China, in 2017, they stated that modern biotechnology and its integration with information with nanotechnology in the cognitive domains will have revolutionary influences on weapons and equipment, the combat spaces, and the forms of warfare and military theories. So, China is definitely working on it, just like our own American government. To give people a little bit of a clue on what gene editing, what it might be, and what it can consist of. Gene editing involves inserting, deleting, modifying, or replacing the DNA of a living organism. It could help prevent humans from diseases and natural illness. It could give superhuman abilities to humans. It could give humans a boost in their sense of smell and vision. While it is also very ethically challenging, DNA is a new and risky science that could have unknown consequences for babies. It could lead to societal changes and the possibility of creating designer humans and severe inequality, which is also something to kind of theorize. It's leading the genetic literacy project for questioning the world on how we need an international gene editing rules regulation. So within a century, human beings will be capable of editing their genes to modify traits. And Stephen Hawking even predicted this, which I will go into later. If governments are starting to modify the populations through gene editing, would that pave way for eventual use of overuse or misuse? At the military levels, you can imagine you want to create super soldiers who withstand everything and can carry hundreds of pounds and literally be invincible. Now, this genetic literacy project wants to shine light. So if you guys would like to go visit their website, you guys can and learn a little bit more upon genetic editing and how we should regulate it, constant updates on it. And this is a good, well-balanced website that, as they say, it's science, not ideology. So they're not going to give you a judgmental story. They're going to give you the real deal. Next up, so the Synergy Foundation. Now, this is interesting. Look at it. It says, Make America First Again, Transhumanism and Genetic Super Soldiers. Now, this is from 2019. It says, with the rapidly advancing field of genomics and gene modification, a very real possibility arises that these technologies could be applied to enhance soldiers' capacity. Now, we already know this. Now, they're just giving you some type of questioning for the modern, uninformed human, person in society that doesn't really know. So if you want to go figure out more, Synergy Foundation has some good information. According to the World Anti-Doping Agency, gene doping is a therapeutic use of genes, genetic elements, and cells that can improve athletic performances. LeBron James? This technology was initially developed for the treatment of disease and can be adapted to enhance physical performance, which is interesting. Ohio is very, very rich in their genetic testing programs, if you know a little bit about them. This science has illuminated several key areas to increase physical performance through gene doping. These include endurance, strength, pain tolerance, enhanced vascularity, improved energy levels. The DARPA has been researching man-made computing symbiosis and a classified program called Project Pandora, which I will get into right now. Here, check this out. So Project Pandora created this thing called Radio Bio, right? So within Project Pandora, they activated this Radio Bio. Now, Radio Bio is interesting. The Radio Bio program aims to establish whether functional signaling via electromagnetic waves between biological cells exists, and if it does, to determine what mechanisms are involved and what information is being transferred. The program seeks to determine the validity of electromagnetic biosignaling claims and whether evidence exists, understand how the structure and function of these natural antennas are capable of generating and receiving information in a noisy, cluttered electromagnetic environment. So what it's saying is DARPA is researching whether or not telepathy exists in their new Project Pandora, and they're also researching on what mechanisms are involved and how these mechanisms can be activated, transferred. So if DARPA is also into artificial enhancements. Now, could it also be into artificial electro biosignaling? Um, I mean, it could be into, hopefully, it's more into activating more precise electromagnetic biosignaling and helping humans achieve these states. But that's just me speculating and theorizing that they're doing it for the best. But who knows? Really, I mean, there is some cool things that they're doing with the superhuman program. I do see that, like, well, if they're just gonna create a race, like, hey, yeah, create them good. Don't destroy them. Don't create a superhuman race of like like you know, genetically impaired humans. No, you want genetically strong humans. So radio bio by DARPA. Now that one's interesting, right? So continuing on now to this DARPA to resurrect Pandora project. DARPA develops the weapons of the future. It funds everything from basic science to advanced technology. Though the ultimate goal is to always develop something that can be used by the military. DARPA is creating radio bio to determine whether cells are able to exchange information with EM signals. And if so, what the cells are saying and how they do it. Telepathy. Literally. Now, there's this Havana syndrome that this article talks about. It talks about the NSA admitted that some of their employees may have been the victims of this Havana syndrome, which is microwave attacks that target people and cause them ringing in their ears, feel faint-headed, have headaches, feel like there's sonic pressure or electromagnetic pressure or light pressure in your brain while you're around computers. People say it's like, oh, the exposure of radiation. Well, not everybody feels that way. Some people might be getting targeted, and it's not necessarily by America at all times. Like, I've been studying and following Monkey Works. Shout out Monkey Works. So in his broadcast, you can follow him on YouTube. He discusses and shows how America is highly being cyber attacked by all these other countries. America is like the number one spot. Like, we're just getting peppered by all these different countries. And so, Havana syndrome might not be necessarily from us. On September 1st, 2018, New York Times published a long article titled "Microwave Weapons Are the Prime Suspect in U.S. Embassy Workers." Now, development of systems began in 1990s Air Force efforts to explore biological effects of microwaves. The project, codenamed Hello, studied how to modulate the clicking or buzzing sounds produced by microwave heating in the inner ear to produce psychologically devastating voices in the head, which is V2K, voice to school, or V2S, voice to school. The project Goodbye explored the use of microwaves for crowd control, which is what we seen in Australia about 2 years ago. We openly seen the crowd control microwave technology. Watch. So let's, you see it all right here. These are all articles. And even in DC, oh yeah, there was high-tech crowd control weapons being brought into DC. So for my viewers online, you can definitely see that there is these technologies being used, right, openly. I mean, they're openly being admitted and they're openly being used. This is boom. Report: microwave energy weapons deployed against Canberra Freedom Convoy in Australia. Australian police have been deploying direct energy weapons against the peaceful Freedom Convoy. Sheesh! Now, I'm not going to get into that. Probably get shadow banned. Whoa. Hey, Jesse. Hey, how's it going? So they brought those in during the trucker protest in Ottawa as well. That's up in Canada. The police line had canceling headsets. Now, interesting. Now, that's some good information. Hey, man, God bless you over there. And God protect you. Honestly, Canada is crazy. So, you guys see that these weapons do exist. Now, let's continue back on. For the record, the expression of vanission was coined by Dr. Ludwig de Brackler and appeared for the first time in a story published by the Intel Today blog on October 3rd, 2017. Of course, it's just a cover-up. Havana syndrome. Nah, it's like, people being targeted by EMF weapons. But hey, Havana syndrome is a good word. So Jesse, say, to watch the footage of the police lines, you will see the headsets. Yeah, I have seen the videos and I have seen the headsets. That is pretty wild up there. I'll admit, like Canada's, it's almost like Australia, but Australia is pretty gay. So, Canada, you're all right. You got a lot of weed, which is cool. New research program in the U.S. Continuing on, new research program in the U.S. The Pentagon wants to know more about how your body's cells use electromagnetic radiations. This program will explore whether electromagnetic waves are purposely transmitted and received within cells, and if so, to leverage those insights not just for biosystems, but also for communicating in cluttered electromagnetic environments. DARPA was created in 1958 by President Eisenhower, which actually I live very close to all of his family's homeland. See, about 30 minutes away, there's a high school named after President Eisenhower because his family is very popular over here in Washington State. They're from the northern area, or from the area north of me, and I believe they own a lot of land. They are pretty rich. So DARPA was created by this dude, and I'm sure my state has a lot to do with this. I'm just finding a whole bunch of correlations. This is probably why I'm interested in this. The Pandora Project. 25 years ago, Ross Addy described how cells can whisper together across the barrier of cell membranes. Such messages, he believed, could control complex biological processes. Further, Addy maintained that external electromagnetic radiation could also activate, overwhelm, or muddle such processes. These are commonly known as non-thermal effects. Back in the 1960s, Addy worked on the top secret DARPA project called Project Pandora, which investigated the effects of low levels of microwave radiation. The project was initiated after the U.S. government discovered that the Soviets were beaming microwaves at its embassy in Moscow. Russian microwaves planned to drive U.S. envoys mad. The bombardment of the American embassy in Moscow with microwaves caused the Central Intelligence Agency to fear that the Russians were trying to cause psychological damage to American diplomats, according to the Washington Columnist. This news article states, for all my viewers at home. Wow, so Ever since the 60s, electromagnetic warfare has been a thing. To just think that that's 60 years, and we now have these electromagnetic warfare psychotronic devices in our hands at all times. These phones, we look at certain apps and certain games and certain videos. It's definitely very traumatic for some, like causing nightmares or causing anger with what people are constantly seeing and being bombarded with on their phones, and even boiling down to the actual frequencies that are being sent on this. I'm not saying that all phones are being like this, all phones and all people are under this warfare, but it's just fascinating to think that ever since the 60s this type of stuff has been happening. Now, this is interesting. P.S. A warning from Putin. In early 2012, Putin observed that the current balance of power held in place by nuclear arsenals could well shift in the future due to new technologies. It was in that context that he brought up the psychotronic angle. The military capability of a country in space or information countermeasures, especially in cyberspace, will play a great, if not divisive, role, or decisive, either way, in determining the nature of an armed conflict. In the more distant future, weapon systems based on new principles, beam, geophysical, wave, genetic, psychophysical, and other technology will be developed. All this will, in addition to nuclear weapons, provide entirely new instruments for achieving political and strategic goals. Such high-tech weapon systems will be comparable in effect to nuclear weapons, but will be more acceptable in terms of political and military ideology. In this sense, the strategic balance of nuclear forces will play a gradually diminishing role in deterring aggression and chaos. Interesting that he says that. Now, continuing on, let's go ahead and let's see that Russia itself will be assigning soldiers based on their genetic passports. This will help the military to determine who may be more disposed to become a paratrooper or tankman. This program involves the Kirov Military Medical Academy, which conducts research in military medical services. Speaking ahead at St. Petersburg International Economic Forum, Alexander Sergeyev said that the most important and interesting project considered by representatives of the Russian Academy, Sciences and Military Academy is the so-called genetic passport of a soldier. I think that Alexander Sergeyev was killed because I remember a lot of these Russian generals and scientists were just getting offed like left and right. The project is far-reaching, scientific, fundamental. Its essence is to find such genetic predispositions among military personnel which will allow them to be properly orientated among military specialties. In March, Russians Vladimir Putin issued a decree that called for implementation on genetic certification of the population, taking into account the legal framework of the protection of data on the personal human genome and the formation of genetic profile of the population for the period up to 2025, which introduced the concept of genetic passports for all citizens. It was reported that this was a part of the state management system aimed at protecting the country's people and the environment from the negative impact of dangerous chemical and biological factors, creating and developing methods to monitor chemical and biological risks, as well as boosting bilateral and international cooperation in the area of chemical and biological security. The project involves not only the assessment of psychological or physiological states, but also the prediction of human behavior in stressful, critical situations that are associated with the military profession. In the same way, there is a nationwide push for China to become a superpower in science and technology. The Chinese phrase for eugenics is Yu Sheng Zhu, the science of superior birth. The main concept about gene editing and its potential danger by CRISPR toolkits and is less than, you know what? All right, okay, hold on. Adagene, a nonprofit DNA molecule repository in Cambridge, Massachusetts, has sent thousands of CRISPR toolkits to researchers in more than 80 countries. China has made over 10,000 requests for CRISPR plasmids, separated DNA molecules, and hundreds of deposited plasmids in Adagene repository. Russian researchers work with Adagene, and the nonprofit helps scientists navigate Russian customs. Adagene, in its credit, has numerous safeguards in place to ensure that its products are used for legitimate science. Researchers show the evidence that they are working on academia and laboratories. The U.S. military has invested over $65 million in developing a software that can upload a human brain that will not only heighten the senses of the soldier, but could make them highly resistant to blindness and paralysis. DARPA is working on advanced robotics, on an artificial brain, next-gen robotic aircraft, advanced prosthetics, and self-teaching computers. One of the main challenges for the creation of super soldiers is the human body with an intractable problem of blood leakage. Doug Weaver, neural engineer, when foreign material is put into the brain, you undergo the process of wounding, bleeding, healing, wounding, bleeding, healing, and whenever blood leaks to the brain compartment, the activity in the cells go way down, so they become sick. So they, I would say that they're close to then putting artificial brains in humans. Fascinating. Next up, French army gets to go ahead to create bionic soldiers to make them stronger and faster using treatments and prosthetics. Now, see, this is a quick little run through. The French military is doing what DARPA is doing what Russia is doing what China is doing, and they're just following along and creating super soldiers. The proposals aim to improve physical, cognitive, perceptive, and psychological capabilities. The committee says that France needs to maintain operational superiority of its armed forces in a challenging strategic context. So, just as these leaders and scientists were all, quote, predicting, oh, yes, I think in the future, military super soldiers and testing and genome editing is all going to be a huge problem and huge battle. And so they know that because they're actually doing it. They're all part of the plan. Any move towards creating bionic soldiers would have been made respecting the humanitarian law, says the committee of ethical experts. But who really knows? I mean, honestly, do they ever really follow laws? So I just wanted to show you this article from the Sun Co UK showing that France is also working on super soldiers. Now, this article from the National Interest, July 5th, 2019. Is Russia creating a Nazi-style army of genetic super soldiers? So this goes and talks about more of the genetics passport. And also, there is a Project Avatar, which I believe I discussed about 2 to 3 months ago. Project Avatar is this 1940 or 2040 race. So they're racing to 2040 in Russia to complete this Project Avatar, or have it started, where they're going to go ahead and adapt humans into an online AI and, make them like avatar on the internet, which is why it's called Project Avatar. And so they're gonna like get your consciousness uploaded so that you can like live forever, or like have you chipped up with a brain chip so that you can like be symbiotic with a computer. Either way, they're really trying to push the humans to be transhuman and kind of live forever. And that's in Russia, Project Avatar. So Vladimir Putin has embraced genetics with a passion. The Kremlin in March issued a decree that called for implementation of genetic certification of the population, taking into account the legal framework for the protection of data on the personal human genome and the formation of genetic profiling of the population. So, you can kind of imagine that maybe that with all of these governments wanting to create a genetic super house of humans, that maybe having swab tests from so many different millions and billions of people might just help them in this genome project, because we do know of the Human Genome Project. You guys remember the Human Genome Project, right? I might have discussed this. And the Human Genome Project literally aims to map out all of the world's genetic sequencing, and literally they're going to try to find every little protein, every little cell work. They're going to try to map it, use it for themselves, and really understand the human at every single level they can. A special committee created in 1988, which included the sequencing of the entire human genome, in addition to the genomes of all of the Earth's organisms by this date. Like this was an old representation. 1988, they wanted to just have a few organisms, but now in this day, they want to have all. Like in updated articles, they're showing that this Human Genome Project has literally mapped out like most of the world. So what that means is that they're able to, have a biological understanding of cultures and societies, and they're also able to understand how to biologically affect all of these cultures and organisms. Now, continuing on, back onto the main point. Now, another article from The Conversation showing bioweapons to super soldiers, how the UK is joining the genomic technology arms race. The UK government recently announced an £8 million taxpayer-funded advanced research and inventions agency called AREA. The brainchild of the British Prime Minister's former chief advisor, Dominic Cummings, and modeled the US DARPA. The organization will focus partly on genomic research. So their area is modeling DARPA, is what this is. Genome technology is becoming an increasingly important part of the military research. So given that the UK boasts some of the best genomic research centers in the world, how will its new agency affect the wider genome technology warfare race? In 2019, DARPA announced that it wishes to explore genetically editing soldiers, and the UK followed. But the ease of accessibility and low cost of CRISPR-based technology has caused concern around potential military genetic modification and weaponization of viruses and bacteria, this including smallpox and tuberculosis, which could be extremely destructive. Smallpox. Wait, monkeypox? Oh, wait. Tuberculosis? Oh, you mean, part of like that chest, isn't that like something wrong with your breathing? And weren't people having breathing problems in CV-19? Oh, you know what? I'm not going to get into that. man, oh man. It's like they're like guessing what could go wrong, and it goes wrong. UK position. There are signs that UK will be bolder and less accountable in its genetic defense research than many other countries. For example, AREA won't be subject to freedom of information requests. Holy shit. So UK is going to be able to be way stricter, is what they say. UK has also been at the forefront of enabling controversial, pioneering non-military genome technology, such as 3-parent babies, What is this? World's first 3-parent baby raises question about long-term health risks. A baby boy, the first child to be born using a new technique that incorporates DNA from 3 people, is now 5 months old. This is some demon shit. What the fuck? This article came out in 2016. The UK is on some fucking demonic shit, bro. It is great news. The birth of a healthy baby conceived in this new procedure is a major step forward in preventing the inheritance of mitochondrial diseases. Mitochondria is a powerhouse of cells. Fuck you. Dude, like, so, oh my God, bro. They pretty much had a threesome, and like, they're like, let both dicks impregnate one vag. Hold on, man. No, but I mean, that's not probably what literally didn't happen. Okay, this means the baby has 3 genetic parents: the father who supplied the sperm, the mother who supplied both womb, and an anonymous donor who supplied healthy mitochondria. What? What do you mean an anonymous donor? So this anonymous donor could have been a Yeti, could have been a Bigfoot, could have been Ted the bear, could have been E.T. phone home. Dude, who knows what this anonymous donor is? That's scary, bro. So yes, the UK is on some weird shit, and they definitely don't have any laws or anything that's stopping them from being weird or super harsh. And okay, continuing on, there has been no shortage of government reports that have stressed the importance of genome technology in the domain of defense and security. In 2015, a United Kingdom National Defense Review highlighted the influence that advances in genetic engineering can have for security and prosperity. In recent 2021 Security, Defense, Development and Foreign Policy Review in the UK government once again stressed its significance for defense and national security. So, Arya, isn't that like Arya Stark? Like from fucking Game of Thrones? Oh, I wondered why that name is popular. Nah, it's played. But sometimes they do make names popular. And, who knows? I mean, it could be similarity. British scientists have received DARPA funding for controversial genomic research, such as genetic extinction of invasive species such as mosquitoes or rodents. Despite its promise, this could have disastrous potential to food security and the ecosystems of nations. And so this article from The Guardian says U.S. military agency invests $100 million in genetic extinction technologies. Holy shit. From 2017, the U.S. military agency invested $100 million in genetic extinction technologies that could wipe out malaria and mosquitoes. This shows the funder of Gene Drive research will raise tensions ahead of a UN expert committee on whether or not this military application is good. And so I'm sure they went ahead and did this. Who knows? You know what? Really, I have no idea. But we do see that this technology exists. This is fucking wild. So, back to the main point. Now, New York Post: Russian lawmakers blame losses on experimental Ukrainian super soldiers. This is fucking wild. Russia on Monday outrageously claimed that its massive army had to fail to, deliver Ukraine to President Vladimir Putin because it is fighting against experimental super soldiers turned into cruel killing machines. Now, this is not wild because I just showed you about 10 articles how all of the world is working on genetic super soldiers, and even articles from DARPA itself. So 2 Russian lawmakers told reporters this week that the Kremlin is investigating the blood of Ukrainian prisoners of war and has found evidence of experimentation. Wild. Russian Senator Konstantin Koshevev told the outlet that the blood of Ukrainian prisoners contained traces of pathogens which he claimed were atypical for Ukrainians. This was evidence for experiments, and said that the supposed experiments were focused on the creation of more vicious soldiers. We see that the cruelty and atrocities which military personnel of Ukraine behave, the crimes that they commit against the civilian population. This is wild because we do already have a whole bunch of data showing that there's biolabs. Now, what could you possibly need biolabs? Well, possibly for creating biological super soldiers. Now, I study biology, chemical, or yeah, biological, biological, chemical, radiological, nuclear studies for the military, and I gotta say that this shit's real. Like, they do this shit, and you may just think that this is skeptical if you're just listening, but if you're a viewer at home on YouTube, you see that all this is happening. Now, next article from Daily Mail Co. UK. Does Putin really need another army? Russia's defense minister wants to clone 3,000-year-old ancient warriors from remains found in Siberia and their horses to boot. I covered this 6 months ago, but it's just a good, reminder right about now when everybody's thinking about cloning, AI, superhuman, super technologies, androids. Oh man, look at man. This was a huge article because this is real. Like, this ain't no freaking conspiracy theory. Sergei Shoigu has unveiled desire to clone ancient royal warriors in Siberia. They're Scythian warriors. The ancient Tunig burial site is located in the Valley of Kings in Tuva. We would like very much to find the organic matter and clone them. Now, this is just what the Russians want to do. Imagine what the Chinese want to do. They have those terracotta warriors. Imagine what anybody down in India would want to do. They have their Vedic warriors and their DNA from there. We in America, we have some very ancient mound sites, and we know that there is possibly giants, all around America. So I'm sure that this article is just a tip of the iceberg to show you what all of the governments are doing, because we know that if one of them is doing it, they're all doing it. Like, no doubt, bro. These are the elites. They're all just handing each other the little secrets and facts and discoveries. When Shoigu at age 65 initiated the Russian Swiss archaeological digs here 3 years ago, a modern day shaman was even drafted in by the scientists to ensure the excavations did not anger the spirits. The defense chief told a session of the Russian Geological Society, also attended remotely by Putin on Wednesday. Of course, we would like to very much find the organic matter. He was referring to the well-preserved remains of ancient people and animals, explained TASS. I believe you understand what would follow that, said Shoigu in a broadcast on Zvezda TV. It would be possible to make something of it, if not Dolly the sheep. Remember, Dolly the sheep in the 1990s was the world's first cloned sheep. And that was just what the public was seeing, bro. So, like in the 80s, they probably already had that. In the 90s, they probably had cloned humans. He added, without explaining more of a planned genomic research than in general, it will be very interesting. The burials were in permafrost, and according to scientists, organic matter should be preserved there. We have conducted several expeditions there already. It is a big international expedition. Holy shit. So what we're not seeing is the other side of this, because when these archaeological like world-class archaeological exhibitions take place, like there's international communities and committees. So like you have the elites all gathering around, and so when they say it is a big international expedition, there's other people being involved in this, and they're just not really talking about the other players, which is okay, whatever, I don't really care. The burial site is among the earlier Scythian remains. Scythians were some of the fiercest warriors. Greek historian Herodotus in the 5th century BC claimed that the Scythians made cloaks from their victims' scalps after victory. The Scythian warriors are believed to have used their enemies' skulls as drinking cups. Sheesh, bro, that's savage. Legends say they drank the blood of their vanquished foes. The valley contains so-called Sar mounds of the Scythian era. So they're trying to recreate some vampires. Sheesh, man. We're fucked. Nah, I hope not. It is not the first time Shogoi has spoken about finding organic matter which can be investigated by the DNA. Man, oh man. So Russia is, really on that. Next up, we have the Nazi super soldier program. Now we've know in 1935 Lebensborn or Spring of Life was a sort of child breeding program which included kidnapping and Germanizing Aryan children, as well as providing special breeding clinics. Now they want to create super soldiers. Now, there's all these different things that they were given. They were given Pervitin, which is methamphetamine, crystal meth, and some other things. But then they also started to give them this top secret drug called Dix, DIX, which was a cocaine-based cocktail. 5 milligrams of oxycodone, 3 milligrams of Pervitin. So, who really knows about what else that they didn't say and have not disclosed? But we can see that these genetic modification programs have been literally almost going on for 100 years. And the extent at which our governments would test on us, woo-wee, boy. So the next article, it talks about the secret Nazi Institute of the Occult, Super Soldier, and Zombies. Yeah. I will go ahead and read this long article because this just seems fascinating. The Nazis have always made great villains, and for good reason. Their twisted philosophy, seemingly all-encompassing presence during World War II, their ruthlessness, and their numerous secret projects have all sort of wreathed them with an ominous air of evil and unscrupulous mystique, thrown in stories of unleashing top-secret superweapons, occult powers, secret underground lairs, and quest for powerful ancient artifacts. And you have the perfect recipe for a mysterious, villainous organization. Yet the movie portrayal of Nazis is not always as completely so far removed from reality as one might think. Indeed, the Nazis were deep into research, expeditions, and experiments that are just as fantastic and at times downright absurd as any fiction involving them. They were involved in the dark world of the weird and the occult to a degree many might not be aware of. Truth is indeed sometimes stranger than fiction, and man's propensity for evil knows few boundaries. It is potent combination that makes the reality of Nazis something at once stranger and far more terrifying than any movie depiction of them. Hitler and many of the Nazi leaders had an interest in the occult that is quite well documented. And in fact, the Nazi Party had originally started as a sort of occult fraternity in the days before their meteoric rise to a devastating political force. This intense interest in the occult and the arcane led to the significant expansion of a secret cabal known as the Onnerby, which had been originally founded on July 1st, 1935, by Heinrich Himmler, who would later become the notorious leader of the SS, along with Hermann Wirth and Richard Walter Darry. The Onnerby literally means inherited from the forefathers, and started out ostensibly as an institute dedicated by researching the archaeological, anthropological, and cultural history of Germanic heritage, but in actuality, it was more to find evidence that would support the German theory that the Aryan race was a superior and godlike people from whom the Germans descended. In this sense, they were more an agent of propaganda looking to find so-called scientific evidence or proof to support their twisted ideologies. To this end, this shadowy organization funded numerous expeditions and archaeological digs all over the world in places as far as Germany, Greece, Iceland, Romania, Croatia, Africa, Russia, Tibet, and many others, looking for lost arcane ruins, artifacts, relics, or ruins that would bolster their claims that they were the prefect race above all others. Tibet was of special importance to the Anunnaki, as it was believed that a mysterious lost civilization existed that had been the origins of the pure, perfect Aryan race, and which perhaps still live in the vast subterranean cities. It was not long before the operations of Anunnaki branched out from their brand of science, set out into the edges of the occult, and perhaps considering the pedigree of its founding fathers, Um, considering that the pedigree of its founding fathers, it is no surprise. Herman Wirth was a Dutch historian obsessed with finding the location of Atlantis, and the future SS leader Himmler had an intense, well-known fascination with all things occult to a disturbing degree. In fact, Himmler was somewhat a crackpot who had grand desires to one day replace the Christian religion with one of the own that he's making. And he was one of the driving forces behind the Anunnaki steady divergence from an original purpose and increasing rate a role as a tool of the occult. As this ominous organization pulsed and grew, it fanned out around the world on numerous fantastic quests that seemed like something straight out of Indiana Jones films. They delved into the remote areas of the world looking for these lands, various ancient relics, mystical texts, magical items, weird curiosities, bizarre paranormal locations, and strange supernatural artifacts of all kinds. With the official Nazi endorsement and expansion of the Institute, the Anunnaki expanded to approximately 50 branches dealing with everything from long-range weather prediction to archaeology to ESP research and the supernatural, and substantially stepped up their operations, scouring the far-flung corners of the earth in search for a wide variety of such legendary wonders as the Holy Grail, the location of Atlantis, the Spear of Destiny, with which Longinus had stabbed into Christ's side as he suffered upon the cross. The group also searched for various portals to other realms, as well as ancient lost lands, including Atlantis, and other expeditions influenced by an equally mysterious organization known as the Thule Society, looking for a fantastical land called Thule, which is believed to be the true birthplace of the Aryan race, and discovery of which would endow them with vast superhuman powers such as telekinesis, telepathy, and flight abilities, which they had lost over centuries of mixing with lesser races. So far, so creepy, but it doesn't end there. Their strong desire to find new secret weapons extended into the organization's scientific divisions, which actively sought to develop top secret technologies based on ancient, lost, or forbidden knowledge, mystical texts, alien technologies, and their own secret research. The group was heavily involved in various areas of bizarre pseudoscience, including finding crashed UFOs and the study of far-out theories such as what was known as the world ice theory, which proposed that the Earth had been created when a massive chunk of ice had impacted with the sun, and that the planet had several moons orbiting around it, which could result in polar shifts and cataclysmic disasters. The Anunnaki was also interested in harnessing the power of the occult, magic, and psychic powers for use as weapons against their enemies, and to this end there were various programs devoted to such pursuits, including trying to develop psychic assassins who could kill with their minds, using astral projection to spy on their enemy, astrology to help plan strategies, the power of runes, a fact reflected in the use of rune-like lettering in the organization's logos. There has also been much speculation that the group was heavily interested in finding and utilizing alien technology for numerous weapons programs. This may all seem absurd, but none of this was a joke to the Nazis, and many in power firmly believe that these numerous quests and projects pouring a great deal of money, manpower, and resources into them. And I believe all of this, and now I have the research to really actually match with this too. Since these were the Nazis were dealing with, and of course the Anurbis' malevolent dealings against human experimentation, and there were obvious sinister experiments to the effect carried out in the dark, secret layers and laboratories. This is especially noticeable in Anurbis' incorporation of the Institute of Wissenschaftliche Zweckforschung, Institute for Military Scientific Research during World War II, which was tasked with all manner of shady military research and development, and began a dark era of gruesome experiments on the berugged prisoners of concentration camps. Most of these projects had mixed results and were of questionable goals, yet all of them were truly ruthless and demonstrative of a profound and disturbing lack of respect for human life. Perhaps fitting, since the Nazis did not regard their prisoners as really human at all. One of the most nefarious instances of the Anurbis' use of humans as test subjects was a project to determine the physical limits of pilots who were flying ever more advanced aircraft for the Luftwaffe. The series of experiments was overseen by Anurbis director Wolfram Sievers and carried out by the notorious SS Dr. Sigmund Roscher, and involved the use of concentration camp prisoners requested for this purpose from Himmler himself, as no one was crazy enough to be willing to volunteer for such a dangerous project. Roscher was granted unlimited access to helpless prisoners for use in his demented experiments, and he began putting them in portable vacuum chambers that resembled medieval torture devices and were designed to simulate differing altitudes in flight. The prisoners were locked into the chambers against their will, and the pressure was subsequently altered drastically between high altitude and low altitude settings in order to simulate the rapid rise of advanced aircraft, as well as to simulate a state of free fall without oxygen, and the purpose of analyzing the effects on the human body. It was somewhat unsurprising that most of these test subjects did not survive these demanding, inhumane tests, which pushed them past their physiological limits, and Broscher was remarkably cruel even to those who did. When Himmler suggested that as payment for the services, survivors of the experiments have their sentences commuted to life imprisonments rather than the inevitable death that they faced before, Rascher refused, saying that the prisoners were all Poles and Russians who deserved no amnesty or mercy. Surviving these experiments probably meant further torture and a death worse than what the vacuum chamber had to offer. Indeed, Rascher's face was not one that any prisoner looked forward to seeing. Those are truly some barbaric alien demons. Ah, man. Rascher's thirst for human suffering was seemingly unquenchable, and he would indeed go to be involved in other hideous experiments as well. In one such experiment, over 300 prisoners were used to ascertain how long German pilots could be expected to survive if it was shot down above freezing water. The test subjects were subjected to freezing conditions by being left naked in the frigid cold for up to 14 hours straight, or fully immersed in freezing water for 3 hours at a time, all while being monitored with electrodes. After which, numerous different methods were tried to revive them, such as scalding hot water baths or other more unorthodox methods like sandwich between naked women. Also happened to be concentrated camp prisoners. Yet another experiment involved shooting prisoners in the chest or neck in order to test out a substance called polygal, which was made from beets and apple pectin and designed to stop bleeding by quickly coagulating blood. The drug was administered in a capsule form and was a product Rocher believed would be revolutionary for treating gunshot wounds or for use in surgery. In some cases, test subjects had their limbs brutally amputated without anesthetic in order to test polygal. While Rocher was so hopeful and eager to manufacture that he actually set up a company for this purpose. Although polygal would never be mass-produced, the capsule design led to the invention of the infamous cyanide capsule. Other human experimentations and antidotes for a wide variety of chemical weapons and poisons, all of which involved injecting and otherwise exposing unwilling prisoner test subjects to various pathogens, poisons, and lethal chemicals, showing that even death there was no rest. Many of the dead produced these cruel and misguided experiments to go on to become part of the macabre collection of Jewish skeletons that was kept to be used for further research. without these experiments, there would be no spacesuit. Well, space is, yeah, that could be true. Space is kind of gay and fake, but the suits are kind of fascinating if you actually look at them. Yeah, they are some like exoskeleton suits. It's interesting. Space is interesting. Another area of inquiry into somehow manipulating the human form was undertaken by Joseph Mengele, a notoriously sadistic physician in Auschwitz concentration camp. Mengele was partly interested in identical twins and their connections and performed experiments on hundreds of pairs of identical twins, mostly small children. These experiments sought to do such things as change eye color and explore the possible psychic connection, for instance, measuring if one twin had any measurable reaction to pain or distress inflicted on the other. Others were more medical in nature. One experiment involved inflicting one twin with a horrific disease such as typhus or malaria and transfusing blood from one to see if it would cure them. There were also attempts to graft amputated body parts from one twin onto the other, in one case to even surgically join both twins together in a grotesque conjoined abomination which the subjects mercifully did not have to endure for long before perishing. Fucking the human centipede. It's not totally clear what ultimate horrific aim of the twin experimentation was, but typically when one of the twins died, the others would be put down with chloroform injection to the heart, and both of their bodies would be dissected and comparatively analyzed, and the data, which remain top secret. Radiation is a killer. Well, yeah. We do die from radiation, and we do also get healed from radiation. When we look at it in the form of like the sun rays, the sun radiation. Interesting. The use of human experimentation on the Anunnaki did not stop at finding human limits, reviving near-dead subjects, the possible psychic connection between twins, or anti-coagulation agents, cures, and antidotes. There was always a desire to improve the human form and create some sort of super soldier as well. One way it was believed humans could become more powerful was by a very selective breeding process to produce pure Aryan people, a project which was called Lebensborn, and to remove impurities in the master race. The Anunnaki believed it would unlock superhuman psychic powers, which was long lost due to mixing with lesser races. On many occasions, those who were deemed to be perfect Aryans had blue eyes, blonde hair, and Nordic features, and were not typically willingly entering the program, but rather kidnapped or taken away from their families. Man, oh man. And now it goes to talk about the DIX drug. Even murkier still are the persistent rumors whispered by some conspiracy theorists speculating that the Nazis were even involved with reviving dead animals and even humans through unknown enigmatic means. One interesting tidbit related to this finding: on April 28, 1945, when Allied forces captured a munitions factory named Burton Road, located in the German region of Thuringia. As some American officers explored a tunnel within the factory, they discovered a brick wall disguised to look like part of the rock, which was 5 feet thick. When the mysterious wall was broken down, a vast chamber was revealed containing a trove of an immense amount of stolen artwork and relics, as well as many Nazi banners and large amount of new uniforms. In an adjoining chamber, there were found to be 4 enormous coffins, with 3 of them containing the remains of a 17th century Prussian king, Frederick the Great, as well as Field Marshal von Hindenburg and his wife. The 4th coffin was empty, and it held a plaque engraved with Adolf Hitler's name. Although it is unknown for what reason these remains were being kept for, Some have suggested that the Nazis, specifically the Anerbe, had plans to somehow resurrect or clone them at a later time. In August 23, 2015, an article by Noah Charney for Solon magazine entitled "Did Nazis Really Try to Make Zombies? The Real History Behind One of Our Weirdest World War II Suggestions and Obsessions" points to the speculation as being largely a literal interpretation of an article from the 50s in which it stated the corpses were to be concealed until some future movement when their reappearance could be timed by resurgent Nazis to fire another German generation to rise and conquer again. Now, we just seen that Russia planned to clone 3,000-year-old Scythian warriors, and, I'm pretty sure that these elites have, had plans to resurrect a 100-year-old dead or 80-year-old dead Adolf Hitler. Man, who even knows if he's dead, to be honest. Now, they were talking about a conspiracy theory, right? About how one can go ahead and speculate the Nazis recreated animals. Well, here we go. Trip the fuck out. Auroch cattle. Man, this article is from ibtimesco.uk. How Hitler and Göring resurrected extinct species of cows to make Nazi super cows, a breed of cow that went extinct in the 1600s but was brought back to life by Hitler. A breed of cows was brought back to life by Hitler. Devonshire farmer Derek Gow had to slaughter most of his herd of heck because of their incredibly aggressive behavior. Some of the animals would try to kill anyone that approached, and the result had been turned into sausage meat. Gow killed all but 2 bulls and 4 cows of the herd. The ones we had to get rid of would attack you any chance they could. They would try to kill anyone. I had worked with a range of different animals, and they far and away are the most aggressive I ever had to deal with. Their origins, oryx, died out in 1627 in Poland. They were a large breed of cattle standing at 1.8 meters in height and was an ancestor to the modern domesticated breeds of cattle. Aurochs had huge curved horns that characterized the breed, and some of the horns could reach 80 centimeters in length, and their legs were longer than modern cattle. Historical accounts suggest the beasts were fast and aggressive. They were not afraid of humans, and if they were hunted, would attack back in response. Evidence suggests that wild species began to be domesticated around 8,000 years ago. By the 13th century, populations of wild aurochs had fallen dramatically with their range restricted from human expansion. They had disappeared from Britain by 2000 BC, but remained in Eastern Europe until the 17th century. In the 1930s, Nazi second-in-command Hermann Göring asked geneticists Heinz and Lutz Heck to recreate the genetic species. A keen hunter, Göring instructed them to develop a genetically engineered species by backbreeding from Auroch descendants. The Heck brothers, working independently, crossed Spanish fighting bulls with Highland cattle, along with primitive breeds from Corsica and Hungary. The result? Nazi super cows. They were used for propaganda material during World War II. Their bodies were huge and muscular with massive horns. An illustration of the strength of the party of Nazi Germany. Gao said there was a thinking that you could selectively breed animals and indeed people for Aryan characteristics which were rooted in ruins, folklore, and legend. What the Germans did with their breeding program was create something truly primeval. The reason the Nazis were so supportive of the project is they wanted them to be fierce and aggressive. When the Germans were selecting them to create this animal, they used Spanish fighting cattle to give them the shape and ferocity they wanted. While resembling aurochs, Heck cattle never matched the size and stature of the extinct species. The brothers only imagined to breed cattle the size of domesticated cows. However, physical resemblance was wrong, as the aggressive temperament. Neither of the Heck brothers believed to have survived World War II. with Lutz Heck's breed of cattle also dying before 1945. As a result, all modern Heck breeds are descendants of Heinz Heck's experiments with breeds including Hungarian Grey, Highland, Corsican, Munur Werdenfels. Heck bulls today measure about 1.4 meters in height and weighing up to 600 kilograms. Their horns, while present and not as uniform as aurochs, curving up and out more than the original species. However, the breed is still very well suited to live in the wild, able to withstand cold temperatures and nutrient-poor food. Currently, there are about 2,000 Heck cattle in Europe, with the species fond of roaming free in nature reserves in Bavaria and the Netherlands. Gao said since he slaughtered the aggressive animals, the rest of the herd is no longer murderous. Since they have gone, it is all peaceful again. Peace remains supreme on the farm. Despite the problems, I have no regrets at all. It is a good thing to do, and the history of them is fascinating. I'm almost done, Jesse. Yeah, thank you. Now, this is interesting. So you definitely see that, for 100 years, these genetic tests have been inspired by runes and ancient scripts. So when we think about what's going on and how much it's a recreation of the past and biblical prophecies and people being inspired by the ancients, it's we're not really so far away from the past. Like, even headed into our future, we're still recreating the past. And we got to understand these things. As they say, you can't know your future if you don't know your history. And so as we're winding down now, we're just gonna go ahead and head on to the theory time. Stephen Hawking's warning: gene edited humans threaten the rest of humanity. The late physicist and author Professor Stephen Hawking has caused controversy by suggesting a new race of superhumans could develop from wealthy people choosing to edit their and their children's DNA. Hawking, the author of A Brief History in Time, who died in March, made the predictions in a collection of articles and essays. The scientist presented the possibility that genetic engineering could create a new species of superhuman that could destroy the rest of humanity. I am sure that during the century, people will discover how to modify both intelligence and instincts such as aggression. Laws will probably be passed against genetic engineering with humans, but some people won't be able to resist the temptation to improve human characteristics such as memory, resistance to disease, and length of life. Once such superhumans appear, there will be significant political problems with unimproved humans who won't be able to compete. Presumably, they will die out or become unimportant. Instead, there will be a race of self-designing beings who are improving at an ever-increasing rate. The comments refer to techniques such as CRISPR, a DNA editing system that was invented 6 years ago, allowing scientists to modify harmful genes or add new ones. So, Stephen Hawking is predicting that this genetic modification program will be the death of us. Also, more theory: genetically modified superhuman soldiers of the future will feel no pain or fear and become more destructive than nuclear bombs, warns Vladimir Putin. Genetically modified superhuman soldiers worse than a nuclear bomb could soon become a reality, according to Russian President Vladimir Putin. Speaking at a youth festival this week, Putin claimed that an army of trained killers could be created if scientists play with man's genetic coding. He's right. Stephen Hawking said it. I'm saying it. This guy said it. I'm not even a fan of this guy, but look, playing around with humans on a genetic level will not lead to anything good. He said, a man who has the opportunity to get inside the genetic code created by either nature or, as religious people would say, by the God, all kinds of practical consequences may follow. One may imagine that a man can create a man, not only theoretically, but also practically. He can be a genius mathematician, a brilliant musician, or a soldier, a man who could fight without fear, compassion, regret, or pain. As you understand, humanity can enter most likely its will in the near future and very difficult, and very responsible period of its existence. What I have just described might be the worst than a nuclear bomb. Putin suggested that leaders should agree on strict regulation to prevent creation of mass killing soldiers, just as many other organizations around the world. He said, when we do something, whatever we do, I want to reiterate, we must never forget about ethical foundations of our work. He warned that AI robots will one day eat us, and Elon Musk even says like AI robots will be the death of us. What do they know that we don't know? He explains that machines are better than humans in some areas, and that robots don't think. This is a touchy subject, but it's interesting to see it. One of the quotes says, "Eventually, I think human extinction will probably occur, and technology will play a part in this." DeepMind from Google, Shane Legg said. Next article. This Harvard professor is listing genes that can make you superhuman. Gene hack your way to huge muscles, radiation resistance, and much more. Harvard geneticist George Church, famous for his plan to resurrect the woolly mammoth, which I had also read about a couple months ago, has been assembling a list of genetic mutations and alterations that could give people longer lives and superhuman powers. The spreadsheet, which reads like a mad scientist field notes, lists the known pros and cons of each gene. For instance, a specific mutation to LRP5 gene would give you extra strong bones, but would also make you less buoyant in water. Other edits could give you subjects resistant to radiation or incredible skills at holding their breath underwater. All in all, the spreadsheet serves as a glimpse into the sort of change we may expect in human gene hacking. Church has responded to futurism requests and hasn't reached out. Very few of the genotypes have drawbacks listed, illustrating how little is still known about genes. But Church noted in the spreadsheet that some could cause serious medical problems. So while there is a whole bunch of pros, there is a whole bunch of cons. Disabling someone's PCSK9 gene would reduce their chances of coronary disease, but increase the risk of developing diabetes. Knocking out the CCR5 gene, as the infamous Chinese scientist Hai Jianqi did in now living human girls, could increase resistance to HIV but increase susceptibility to West Nile virus. It remains unclear whether people will pursue extreme gene hacking. In the meantime, we can explore this catalog of upgrades. So I'm going to pull it up for my viewers at home. Whoa, tripped out. This is fascinating. Look at this. This is a list of genes and what they do. I mean, we're not really going to be able to do much with this, but if you have a gene editor in your house, then you can like edit your genes. But most of my listeners don't have a gene editor, unless it's the CIA and FBI and NASA, and probably you guys have gene editors. But wow, this is awesome. So this talks, just some of the things the genes will do: extra strong bones, large lean muscles, pain sensitivity, low chronic liver disease, augmented manipulations with 6-finger hands. What? Manipulation ability with 6-fingered hands, low order production, prion resistance, hepatitis C virus clearance, HIV resistance, norovirus resistance, Crohn's disease resistance, malaria resistance, ochratoxin resistance, tuberculosis resistance, microbacteria resistance, Oh my God, this is interesting. So yeah, I'm not gonna get into all of that, but this is cool. So Harvard scientist George Church listed all these different genes you could play around with. Next article, China creates brain control warfare. Yes. The announcement of the sanction provided limited specific details of the work of China's Academy of Military and Medical Sciences and the 11 related Chinese research institutes. They say the academy and its affiliates are using biotechnology processes to support Chinese military end users to include purported brain control weaponry. And it's been underway for years. The 2019 report says the brain control weaponry is part of what Chinese officials call an intelligentization of warfare. Intelligentization of warfare. Advances in sciences and technology are leading to upgrades in methods and the ability to subdue enemies. War has started to shift from the pursuit of destroying bodies to paralyzing and controlling the opponent. The future and concept of military supremacy. The focus is to attack the enemy's will to resist, not physical destruction. Brain science is being used to extend warfare in the sphere of human consciousness, causing the brain to become a main target of offense and defense of new concept weapons. The win without fighting is no longer far-fetched. Woo! Future human-machine merging will revolve around the contest of the brain. The two combatant sides will use various kinds of brain control technologies and effective design to focus on taking over the enemy's way of thinking in his awareness, and even directly intervene in the thinking of the enemy's leader and staff, and with that produce war to control awareness and thinking. A second Chinese report disclosed the brain-machine interface is part of Beijing's plan for interactive intelligentization, which will direct control machine using thoughts through mature brain-machine interface. Focused intelligentization is being studied in involving integrated humans and machines towards a goal of creating human physiological enhancements. The third report published states that Chinese Electronic Technology Group is working on brain computation technology for warfare. Its research focuses on brain control technology such as neural activity in the brain and translating neural signals to computer signals, establishing unidirectional and bidirectional signal transmission. Research also being conducted on neural defense, such as leveraging electromagnetic, biophysical, and material technologies to enhance human brains' defense toward brain control attacks. So they're trying to take over your brain and also protect the brain. Fascinating. That is fascinating. I didn't know about that, but now they're literally trying to take over people's brains. No other way to say it. Now, continuing on, this article, Behind the Technology Reviving the Dead. Sydney, the introduction of technology that can revive the dead by Australia and China have similarities with the arrival of Dajjal, a figure who is trusted by Muslims as a sign of the coming day of judgment. As quoted from the Daily Star, a company called Cyronics claims the technology can reanimate the dead. The bodies of the participants will be immersed in liquid nitrogen and stored in a steel box with a temperature around negative 200 degrees Celsius. This is associated to belief to bring back the dead, to innovation to bring back the dead to life is not just from Australia. China has last year prepared several bodies of people who died in experiments to revive them externally. How to bring back the dead using death deceit technology. The Shandong Yingfeng Life Research Institute, which uses Cyronics technology in China, has a crazy plan. The people involved in the research to bring back the dead using technology, oh man, like this is crazy. Quoted from the South China Morning Post, the research, they have known to prepare 10 human corpses. The body was frozen in a special container used to revive China's state-of-the-art technology. One of the laboratories in China it prepares scientists to revive people from dying. They call it cryogenic freezing, using super cold liquid nitrogen. So a lot of that was a repeat. They were just, I said the same thing over and over, but and I mean, it didn't give me too much of a description. So here we go. Continuing on. Ooh, my phone. Oh, sorry. Continuing on. Israel 365 news. A biomedical company is set to begin experiments using stem cells to revive brain dead patients in a manner that troubles theologians who question whether this attempt is too sinful. BioQuark, a medical startup based in Philadelphia, recently announced that they will begin experiments later this year on patients who have been declared clinically brain dead. The trial will involve a multi-pronged approach involving injecting stem cells and peptides into the spinal cord, electrical nerve stimulation, and laser therapy. The researchers hope this will grow new neurons and spur them to connect to each other, bringing the brain back to life. Man, I never even heard about this. So a lot of this is first time reading. BioQuark plans to try again later this year in an undisclosed location in Latin America. If successful, the experiment would be a medical breakthrough, bordering a miracle. A survey published in 2010 described cases covering 13 years, found that there was never been a single person regaining brain function. This is like using genetics to create a new form of life. There are realms that are strictly divine, and there's a whole bunch of Israelites really mad at this research, is what I'm seeing. Rabbi Yosef Berger, rabbi of King David's tomb on Mount Zion in Jerusalem, stated that not only was the experiment forbidden, but had no chance of success. He cited that the 13 principles of faith established by Rabbi Moses ben Maimon, the prominent 12th century Torah authority known by acronym Rambam. The last of his principles state, I believe by complete faith that there will be a resurrection of the dead at the time that will be pleasing before the Creator. Whoa. The Rambam states that we must believe that the resurrection of the dead will happen when it is God's will for it to take place and at no other time. Not only does this effort by scientists go against the principle of faith, but we know that the true resurrection can only happen by divine will. Resurrection of the dead is described in depth, and it is proof of God's rule over the physical world, but it is also stated that before the Messiah, there is no return from the grave. He added that the phenomenon of death will vanish after the resurrection of the dead, citing in the book of Daniel. And many of them that sleep in the dust of the earth shall awake, some to everlasting life, and some to reproaches and everlasting abhorrence. The scientists believe they are masters over life and death, said Rabbi Yosef Berger. Just as they cannot create eternal life, they will find that they are not masters over death. For that, there is only one. That is truth. Amen. Amen. Continuing on. Could new medical technology resurrect the dead? Researchers at Yale have partially revived dead pigs, according to a research published in Nature on August 3rd, 2022. So this was recently. In short, researchers took pigs which had no circulatory activity for over an hour and connected them to an organ X system, which pumped a specialized solution mixed with the pig's own blood into their circulatory system. 6 hours later, the treatment reduced organ swelling and restored circulation from some collapsed blood vessels and even corrected organ damage. Normally, the body of the organ system left at room temperature after cessation of circulation will immediately develop warm ischemia. Without blood flow, organ system will deteriorate very quickly, which is why organs recovered from transplantation are immediately cool. They're placed on ice. The Organ X experiment circumvents this natural process. Analysis of tissue samples revealed that cells were being repaired at a molecular level. In essence, researchers were able to short-circuit part of the natural dying process. The experiment is groundbreaking and opens the doors for at least two possible developments. First, it could pave the way for OrganX technology to be used to delay warm ischemia without the organ transplantation. Currently, organ procurement professionals have a short window of time to get a recovered organ from a deceased donor to a potential transplant candidate. This technology has the potential to radically extend that time. In addition, it could expand a pool of potential organ donors and save more lives. Currently, only about 2% of deaths are eligible for donation because the donor needs to be either brain dead, on a ventilator, or suffer a witness death in a controlled environment like hospital. The OrganX technology evolves and combats the effects of warm ischemia. The timeline for donation will be expanded as it evolves. It might even make a possibility for organ donations outside the current parameters. Second, this technology challenges the traditional definition of death. To be clear, OrganX is nowhere near restoring organ function to the point of raising the dead. They have been able to combat the effects of warm ischemia, witness some cellular repair, and cause the heart to flutter a little. Researchers did not witness an electrical impulses in the pig's brain or see enough cellular repair to restore vital functions, but the experiment challenges the idea of reversibility. Whew, so, like, they didn't get the pig to be active in the brain, but they revive the body. So they are halfway to reviving human. Yeah, no other way to say it. What a fascinating article. So here's that. Cellular recovery after prolonged warm ischemia of the whole body on the pigs. This was peer reviewed in June 23rd, and this was done on 21st of September. So last year they had this technology. Fascinating. Now we're about to wrap it up. Now, this is interesting. XNA, synthetic DNA that can evolve. We've heard about DNA and RNA, but have you heard of XNA? Everything on Earth uses DNA and RNA to carry genetic instructions for life. These two nucleic acids have different names because they're built from different sugars. DNA uses deoxyribose sugar for a backbone of its double helix, while RNA uses ribose. But what if other sugars could be used too? Now scientists have shown that at least 6 other types of sugars can form nucleic acid backbones, and they can be used to store and retrieve genetic information. The researchers have built DNA molecules from scratch, but replaced the deoxyribose with 6 other kinds of sugars, including hexatol, threose, and arabinoids. The 6 types of synthetic genetic chains are called XNAs, or xenonucleic acids. Xeno is Greek for foreign, and because XNA shows the possibility of heredity passing down the genetic information, the researchers say these molecules not only could address fascinating questions about the origin of life, but it could also open the possibility of another kind of life based not on DNA and RNA. Jack Skozak, a geneticist at Harvard University, tells PMN in an email, "It is very interesting with respect to the origin of life and principle that many different polymers could serve the roles of RNA and DNA in living organisms. Why then does modern biology only use RNA and DNA? Because modern biology is ran by the Rothschilds, and they're gonna fucking fuck you, and they're gonna keep you limited. But hey, see, humanity is overcoming it. This isn't the first time the geneticists have cooked up synthetic nucleic acids in the lab. Some scientists previously created DNA with new kinds of base pairs beyond the A and T and C and G connections of DNA. So, what this says is that we're just finding ways to build more DNA, and it's we're actually getting somewhere. This is fascinating. This is cool. Congratulations. Honestly, soon humans will be able to be healed by our own hands, and not, with not with repercussions. This last article, Android Army. Scientists make a huge breakthrough in bid to create Terminator robots. This article is ran by the express.co.uk. A team of engineers from RMIT University in Melbourne, Australia, created switches and pumps out of metal alloys that operate by themselves. This is just like the silver metal that we seen in Terminator. This research created a living tissue, is what this article says. Team leader Professor Kourosh Kalantar Zada said, we adjusted the concentration of acid, base, and salt components in the water and investigated the effect. Simply tweaking the water's chemistry made the liquid medical droplets move and change shape without any need for external mechanical, electronic, or optical stimulants. Using the discovery, we were able to create moving objects, switches, and pumps that could operate autonomously, self-propelling liquid metals driven by the composition of the surrounding fluid. Yeah, guys, you guys know what's happening. These guys are doing all sorts of experiments. That was a 2-hour broadcast, you know. Hey, I hope you guys enjoyed it. Literally, that was one of my favorite episodes to cover. This was groundbreaking information that you can go ahead and understand now, with that our world is possibly being headed to a genetic superhuman future, and that normal humans may be axed out, which is why maybe my spirits have been telling me, and my spirit has been telling me over the last few years, that I need to evolve before robots and genetic superhumans are going to out-evolve us and take all of our, work, and, make lesser humans be out of work. I mean, I really like the subject too, because through my own alien encounter, my ET encounter, I do feel like there's been a genetic testing program that's been done. And, a lot of abductees talk about the genetic testing program. We feel that a lot of us have been purposely chosen. In some cases, some people actually remember the craft and the flights and being on there, and the ships being told that were being used for alien testing to have better kids. And some people know firsthand, that our genes are being constructed like a blueprint, like Plinko, but slow, not randomly. It's happening all by the hands of these elites and figures in the sky, the shadows in the sky, the aliens in the clouds. Yeah, I really hope you guys enjoyed this. Like, subscribe, share, and have yourself a wonderful day. God bless you guys. I love you guys. Peace, positivity. Namaste.